The heavy click of the padlock echoed through the basement corridor like a gunshot. My hands were steady as I slid the industrial lock through the metal latch, sealing the storage room door from the outside. Behind that door, in my own storage unit, surrounded by boxes of our wedding photos and furniture from our first apartment, my billionaire husband and our neighbor were about to realize they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. I pulled out my phone and dialed. The number rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Hello, Derek. This is Marina Chen. I think we need to talk about where our spouses are right now." There was a pause on the other end. Derek Morrison, orthopedic surgeon, old money family, and the husband of the woman currently locked in my storage room, sounded confused. "Marina? What do you mean?" "Cassandra is at her Pilates class." I smiled. A cold smile that would have surprised the woman I used to be 3 months ago. The woman who trusted her husband. The woman who believed in her marriage. That woman was gone. "Is she?" I replied calmly. "Because I'm standing outside my storage unit in our building's basement, and I can hear 2 people inside who sound very much like they're not doing Pilates." On cue, a muffled pounding started on the door. My husband's voice came through, panicked and desperate. "Marina! Marina! This isn't what you think." I heard Derek's sharp intake of breath on the phone. "What are you saying?" His voice had changed completely, from confusion to something darker, something that sounded like dawning horror. "I'm saying your wife and my husband are locked in my storage unit right now. I think you should come see this for yourself. I'll wait here. Basement level, storage area C." "I'm in surgery." "Derek," I interrupted, my voice still perfectly calm, "I really think you want to leave that surgery to your resident. I'll be here." I ended the call and sat down in the folding chair I had brought with me. Yes, I had brought a chair, because I had been planning this moment for exactly 3 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. And I knew it was going to be worth the wait. Let me back up. Let me tell you how the perfect wife became the perfect strategist. Let me tell you how a text message changed everything. 8 years ago, I met James Chen at a gallery opening in downtown Seattle. I was 26, a struggling architect working 60-hour weeks to prove myself in a male-dominated field. He was 29, a tech entrepreneur with big dreams and a tiny apartment. He couldn't afford the gallery's wine, but he showed up anyway because he believed in supporting local artists. "You're Marina Liu," he said, walking up to me with a confidence that should have been obnoxious but somehow wasn't. "You designed the Meridian building. I walked past your structure every day for a month before I looked up who created it. It's brilliant." I was used to men at these events trying to impress me with their knowledge or their money. James was different. He talked about architecture like he understood it, like he saw the vision behind the blueprints. We talked for 3 hours that night. He told me about his startup, a cloud security platform that he believed would revolutionize how companies protected their data. I told him about my dreams of designing buildings that didn't just house people but inspired them. Our first date was at a ramen shop. He apologized for not taking me somewhere fancier. "When my company takes off," he promised, "I'll take you to the best restaurant in the city." I told him I preferred the ramen. I meant it. 6 months later, his company got its first major investor. $50,000 that James treated like 50 million. He took me to that fancy restaurant he had promised, and halfway through dinner, he got down on one knee. "I don't have a ring yet," he said, "but I will. Marina, I want to build a life with you. Not because of what I might become, but because of who you make me want to be." I said yes before he finished the sentence. The next 2 years were a whirlwind. James's company exploded. His first major client led to 5 more, then 50, then 500. His initial $50,000 investment turned into $5 million in venture capital, then 50 million. Then his company went public, and overnight, James Chen was worth $500 million. By our wedding day, he was a billionaire. But here's the thing. For the first few years, money didn't change him. We bought a beautiful penthouse, yes. He drove a Tesla instead of his beat-up Honda, yes. But he still remembered to ask about my day. He still insisted on cooking together on Sunday nights. He still looked at me the way he had in that ramen shop, like I was the most fascinating person in the world. I left my architecture firm to run our charitable foundation. James supported the decision completely. "You have a gift for seeing what people need," he told me. "The foundation will change lives." And it did. We funded after-school programs, supported women in STEM fields, provided college scholarships for underprivileged students. I poured myself into that work. It became my purpose, my passion, which is why I didn't notice when James started to change. It was gradual. An anniversary dinner cut short because of a board meeting. A vacation canceled because of a crucial acquisition. Conversations that used to be about us, about our dreams, slowly became entirely about his company, his deals, his next billion. We moved into our current building 4 years ago. The penthouse cost $18 million. James didn't blink at the price. That's when we met the Morrisons. Derek and Cassandra Morrison lived across the hall. Derek was an orthopedic surgeon from a wealthy medical family. Cassandra was 28, blonde, with the kind of beauty that looked effortless but I later learned cost thousands of dollars a month to maintain. They seemed perfect. The four of us had dinner together. We celebrated holidays together. Cassandra would ask me about the foundation with what seemed like genuine interest. I actually liked her. That's the part that stings the most. I trusted her. 3 months ago, I borrowed James's iPad to check the foundation's email. He had left it on the kitchen counter, which wasn't unusual. We had always been open with each other's devices. No secrets, no passwords. That was the agreement. A message preview popped up on the screen. Just an initial. "See, last night was incredible. When can we use the storage room again?" Fire. I stared at that message for a full minute. My brain couldn't process it. The storage room? Our storage room in the basement of our building? I thought about asking James immediately. The old Marina would have confronted him right then, demanded an explanation, believed whatever story he told me. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the casual tone of the message. Maybe it was the fire emoji. Maybe it was the fact that James had been distant for months. And suddenly this message made all those late nights and canceled plans make a different kind of sense. I didn't confront him. Instead, I did something I never thought I would do. I started investigating my own husband. I went through his iPad carefully, methodically. I found messages between James and C. Hundreds of them going back 14 months. 14 months. More than a year of my life while I had been completely oblivious. The messages were explicit. They were detailed. And they were damning. But what finally broke me wasn't the sexual content. It was a message from 6 months ago. "See, do you think she suspects anything?" James. "Marina? No. She's too busy with her little charity projects to notice what's happening in her own marriage." My little charity projects. The foundation that I had built, that had helped hundreds of people, that I had poured my heart into while my husband was sleeping with our neighbor. I could have confronted him then. I could have screamed, thrown the iPad at his head, demanded a divorce. But rage, I discovered, can be a clarifying emotion. In that moment of pure fury, I realized something important. If I confronted James now, he would have all the power. He would control the narrative. He would hire expensive lawyers and hide assets and make me look like a hysterical, suspicious wife. He had billions of dollars and an army of people whose job was to protect him. I had my intelligence, my patience, and a burning desire for justice. So I made a plan. The next day, I called a private investigator named Janet Wu. She came highly recommended by a lawyer friend who specialized in difficult divorces. Janet was a former FBI agent in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I need to know everything," I told her in our first meeting. "Timeline, frequency, evidence that will hold up in court." "This won't be cheap," Janet warned me. "Surveillance, forensic accounting, digital investigation. We're looking at $50,000 minimum." "I have my own money," I said. My family had left me a small inheritance when they passed. I had never touched it, had never needed to. Now I understood why I had saved it. For this exact moment. Janet's investigation was thorough and devastating. Within 2 weeks, she confirmed that C was Cassandra Morrison, our neighbor, our friend. The woman who had been in my home dozens of times, who had drunk my wine and eaten my food and hugged me goodbye with a smile on her face. The affair had been going on for 14 months. It started at our building's holiday party, of all places. While I was talking to the building manager about a charity event, James and Cassandra had apparently discovered a mutual attraction. Their first meeting was in his car in the building's parking garage. Classy. But what they really loved was the storage room. My storage room, to be specific. Every Thursday afternoon, like clockwork. Derek had a long surgery block on Thursdays, and I had a standing meeting with the foundation's board. 2 to 4 p.m., they would meet in that storage room, surrounded by my belongings, and betray both of their spouses. Janet documented everything. Photos of them entering the storage area together. Hotel receipts for 8 different occasions. Credit card statements showing that James had spent $47,000 on jewelry for Cassandra. $47,000 of our money. Money that should have been going to our foundation, our future, spent on diamonds for his mistress. But the most valuable evidence was what Janet got from planting listening devices in the storage room. Yes, it's legal when it's your own property. And what those devices recorded changed everything. I listened to hours of their conversations, and I learned that this wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy. Does she suspect anything? Cassandra's voice, breathy and intimate. Marina? No. She's too busy with her little charity projects to notice what's happening in her own marriage. James's voice, dismissive, almost cruel. Do you think she'd fight for you if she knew? James laughed. Marina's soft. She'd cry, maybe threaten divorce, but she'd never actually destroy me. That's not who she is. I listened to that recording 3 times. James thought I was soft. He thought I wouldn't fight back. He was counting on it. Another recording, from a month ago. I should probably end things with Marina soon, James said. This sneaking around is exhausting. What about Derek? Cassandra asked. What about him? Well, I can't exactly divorce him yet. His family connections have been incredibly useful for your business. Plus, his salary covers my expenses. Why blow up a good arrangement? So we just keep both marriages going? Until it's no longer convenient. Then we'll figure it out. They were using us. Both of us. Derek for his connections and money. Me for, what? Convenience? Cover? The foundation work that made James look charitable and philanthropic? But the worst recording came just 3 weeks ago. Marina really has no idea how pathetic she looks, does she? Cassandra's voice, dripping with contempt. She thinks she's important because she runs a foundation I funded. It's actually kind of cute. What if we just arranged things so she's out of the picture? I know a lawyer who specializes in. Let's not talk about that here, but I've been moving assets. Money she doesn't know about. When the time comes, she won't get nearly what she thinks she deserves. I sat in Janet's office, listening to my husband and his mistress discuss destroying me, and I felt something shift inside. The soft woman they were talking about, the one who would cry and give up, she was gone. In her place was someone harder, someone smarter, someone who understood exactly what needed to be done. Janet, I said when the recording finished, I need you to dig deeper. I need to know everything about the money he's hiding. Janet brought in a forensic accountant, a man named David Chen, no relation to James, thankfully. David was a specialist in uncovering hidden assets, and he was very, very good at his job. What he found made my blood run cold. For the past 8 months, while planning his affair and his eventual exit from our marriage, James had been systematically hiding money. Shell companies in Delaware, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, real estate purchased under assumed names, cryptocurrency wallets that didn't appear on any of our joint financial statements. In total, he had hidden $88 million. $88 million that belonged to both of us. Money he was stealing while pretending to be my husband, while sleeping in the same house, while kissing me goodbye every morning. This is financial fraud, David told me. Not just hiding assets in a divorce. He's doing this before you've even filed. This is criminal. I hired the best divorce attorney in Seattle. Her name was Patricia Lim, and her reputation was formidable. She had never lost a case involving hidden assets. "We have something special here," Patricia said after reviewing all my evidence. "The recordings, the financial fraud, the conspiracy. Marina, we don't just have a case. We have a nuclear weapon." "I want him destroyed," I said. The words surprised me. I had never been a vengeful person, but these people had taken my trust, my love, my marriage, and they had treated it like garbage. "Then let's give you what you want," Patricia replied with a smile that reminded me of a shark. We spent 6 weeks preparing, documenting everything, organizing evidence, building an airtight case. I continued to act normal around James. I smiled at him over breakfast. I asked about his day. I even initiated a date night, which he half-heartedly attended before claiming he had work to catch up on. Every smile I gave him was a lie. But he had taught me how to lie, hadn't he? He had been doing it for 14 months. Meanwhile, I also had Janet investigate Cassandra more thoroughly. What she found was illuminating and infuriating in equal measure. Cassandra Morrison wasn't her real name. She had been Cassandra Winters, married to a tech executive in California. That marriage had ended after she had an affair with a venture capitalist. She had walked away with $3 million in the settlement. Before that, she had been linked to 2 other wealthy men, both of whom had ended relationships or marriages for her, both of whom she had left once she secured her financial future. Cassandra was a professional. She researched wealthy men, targeted them, seduced them, and extracted as much money as possible before moving on to the next mark. She had moved into our building specifically because she had researched the residents and identified multiple potential targets. James, with his billions, was the biggest prize. "She's a predator," Janet told me, "and she's very good at what she does." "Not good enough," I replied, because Cassandra had made one critical mistake. She had underestimated me just like James had. The plan came together beautifully. Every Thursday, like clockwork, James and Cassandra met in my storage room. 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Derek would be in surgery. I would be supposedly at my foundation meeting. But this Thursday I had a different plan. I told James the first was going to my meeting as usual. I drove around the block and parked in the guest parking area. I took the service elevator down to the basement storage level, and I waited outside my own storage unit with a folding chair and a book, as calm as if I were waiting for a dentist appointment. At 2:28, I heard footsteps. James's voice echoed in the concrete corridor. "Marina's meeting runs until 5. We have plenty of time." Cassandra laughed, that high-pitched giggle that I used to think was charming and now recognized as calculated. They opened my storage unit and went inside, closing the door behind them. I waited exactly 3 minutes, long enough for them to get comfortable, long enough for them to think they were safe. Then I walked to the door. I could hear them inside, muffled voices and other sounds that made me want to vomit. But I stayed focused on the task at hand. I slid the industrial padlock through the external latch. It made a satisfying click that echoed through the empty hallway. Immediate silence from inside the storage room. "What was that?" James's voice, suddenly tense. The sound of the door handle jiggling. "Did the door just lock?" Cassandra, fear creeping into her voice. More jiggling, then pounding. "Shit, we're locked in." I pulled out my phone and called Derek Morrison. When he answered, I held the phone up to the door so he could hear James and Cassandra panicking inside. That's where I was when we started this story. Sitting outside my locked storage room, waiting for Derek to arrive, listening to my husband and his mistress realize they had walked into a trap. And now, 20 minutes later, I heard the elevator ding. Derek Morrison emerged, still wearing his surgical scrubs. His face was pale, his eyes wide with confusion and growing dread. "Marina," he said, his voice hoarse. I stood up calmly, smoothing down my dress. "Derek, thank you for coming. Is this some kind of joke?" He looked at me, then at the storage room door where the pounding had started again. "I wish it was," I replied. I gestured toward the door. "They're in there." Derek approached the storage unit slowly, like a man walking toward an execution. "Cassandra?" he called out. Silence from inside. Then, very quietly, "Derek, what the hell is going on?" Derek's voice rose. "Cassandra." "Derek, baby, it's not what you think. We were just—" "You're in a locked storage room with her husband," Derek shouted, and I saw the precise moment his confusion turned to devastating clarity. James's voice cut in, trying to sound reasonable, trying to take control. "Derek, man, we need to talk about this like adults. Marina, unlock the door. This is insane." I pulled out my tablet computer from my bag. "Before I open that door, Derek, I think you should hear something." I played one of the recordings Janet had captured. Cassandra's voice, clear and cold. "Derek's useful. His family connections have already helped James with 3 major deals. Plus, his salary covers my shopping habit. Why blow up a good arrangement?" Derek's face went from pale to gray. He stumbled backward, and I thought for a moment he might collapse. I played another clip. "James this time. She thinks she's important because she runs a foundation I funded. It's actually kind of cute." "How long?" Derek's voice was barely a whisper. 14 months, I answered. "Every Thursday. Right here in the storage room." Derek looked at the door like it was a gate to hell. 14 months. I have hotel receipts, photographs, financial records showing James spent $47,000 on gifts for her, and about 30 hours of recorded conversations. I handed Derek a folder I had prepared. "This is all yours. You're going to need it." Derek took the folder with shaking hands. He opened it, saw the first photograph, James and Cassandra entering a hotel, his arm around her waist, and closed it again immediately. "Why?" he asked me. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you deserve to know the truth," I said simply. "Because I needed a witness. And because, Derek, we're both victims of the same 2 people. We should be allies, not enemies." Derek nodded slowly. "What happens now?" "Now I open the door, and we both get to see their faces when they realize their secret is out." I pulled the key from my pocket and unlocked the padlock. The door burst open, and James stumbled out, furious and terrified in equal measure. "Marina, what the hell do you think you're doing?" I looked at my husband, my soon-to-be ex-husband, and felt nothing but contempt. "I'm protecting myself from a man who spent 14 months betraying me while hiding $88 million and planning to frame me as unstable so he could divorce me and keep his fortune." James went white. "How did you really think I was too stupid to figure it out?" I pulled out my phone and played another recording. His own voice filled the hallway. "She won't fight. And if she does, I've got enough lawyers to bury her. She'll give up eventually. They always do." The silence that followed was absolute. Cassandra had emerged from the storage room, her makeup smeared, her expensive dress wrinkled. She looked between Derek and me, calculating her next move. "Derek, baby, I can explain." "Don't," Derek said, his voice dead. "Just don't." "James," I said calmly, "those divorce papers you've been planning? I filed them this morning. All marital assets are frozen, including the $88 million you tried to hide. My lawyers have already submitted all of this evidence to the court." "You can't do this," James sputtered. "I already did." I looked at Cassandra. "And Cassandra, Derek's going to need a good lawyer. I can recommend mine." Cassandra's face crumpled. "You don't understand. James and we're in love." "You're in love with his money," I corrected. "But here's the thing, Cassandra. After this divorce, James is going to have a lot less of that. I wonder if you'll still find him so attractive when he's only worth, say, $400 million instead of $2 billion. I watched the calculation happen in Cassandra's eyes. I watched her realize that the golden ticket she thought she had won was about to be revoked. "Derek," she tried again, but he just shook his head and walked away. He didn't say another word. He just left. James looked at me with something I had never seen before in his eyes. Fear. Real, genuine fear. "Marina, please. We can work this out. I'll do counseling. I'll do anything." "You told Cassandra I was too soft to destroy you," I said quietly. "You were wrong, and you're about to find out exactly how wrong." I walked past him, past Cassandra, toward the elevator. Behind me, I could hear Cassandra starting to cry. I could hear James calling my name. I didn't look back. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, but I was ready for all of it. Patricia Lim was a force of nature in the courtroom. The emergency asset protection hearing happened first. James's lawyers, expensive and arrogant, tried to claim I was exaggerating, that the affair was a mistake, that the hidden money was just sophisticated financial planning. Patricia destroyed them. She presented the recordings. All of them. The court listened to James and Cassandra discussing how to keep both marriages for convenience. They heard James mock me for running a foundation he funded. They heard Cassandra dismiss Derek as merely useful. Then Patricia brought out David Chen, my forensic accountant. He testified about the 7 shell companies James had created in 8 months, specifically designed to hide marital assets. He explained how the money had been transferred in carefully calculated amounts to avoid triggering banking alerts. "This wasn't a mistake, Your Honor," David testified. "This was a sophisticated, premeditated campaign of financial fraud." The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and no patience for games, looked at James with undisguised disgust. But the coup de grace came when Patricia played the final recording. James's voice, clear and confident. "She won't fight, and if she does, I've got enough lawyers to bury her. She'll give up eventually. They always do." The courtroom was silent for a long moment after that recording ended. Then the judge spoke. "Mr. Chen, I've been on this bench for 19 years. I have never, in all that time, encountered such a calculated campaign of deception and financial abuse within a marriage. She ruled in my favor on every single point. All hidden assets were returned to marital property. James was prohibited from accessing any of our joint accounts. A full forensic accounting of all his businesses was ordered, and I retained possession of our penthouse during the divorce proceedings. The media got wind of the story. How could they not? A billionaire tech CEO caught in a storage room affair while hiding nearly $100 million from his wife. It was too perfect. Tech billionaire's storage room scandal read one headline. The storage room affair that cost him everything read another. James's company stock dropped 8% in a single day. His board of directors called an emergency meeting. 3 major clients dropped their contracts, citing reputational concerns. Within a week, James was forced to step down as CEO. He remained as chairman, but with significantly reduced authority and a board that no longer trusted him. Cassandra fared no better. Derek filed for divorce immediately, using my evidence. Her patterns of targeting wealthy men became public knowledge. Her social circle, the wealthy women she had cultivated so carefully, turned on her completely. She tried to stay in our building, but the building's residents made it clear she wasn't welcome. Within 30 days, she moved out. The divorce trial itself was almost anticlimactic. James tried to fight, hired new lawyers, attempted to claim I was being vindictive. But the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Patricia presented everything. The affair timeline, the hidden money, the recordings of James planning to frame me, the proof that he had tried to plant false evidence of foundation fund misuse. James took the stand, and Patricia destroyed him with his own words. "Mr. Chen," she asked during cross-examination, "you said your wife would give up eventually. Do you still believe that?" James couldn't answer. The man who had built a billion-dollar company through confidence and charisma had nothing to say. The judge awarded me 80% of all marital assets. 80% of $2.3 billion. I kept the penthouse. James was ordered to pay $7 million annually in alimony for 10 years. And he had to cover all my legal fees, which had reached $2.3 million. But the money wasn't what mattered most to me. What mattered was the final thing the judge said. "Mr. Chen, your statement that your wife would give up eventually shows a fundamental contempt not just for her, but for the institution of marriage itself. You didn't just commit adultery. You committed financial fraud, planned character assassination, and attempted to weaponize this court system against your wife. This court finds your behavior reprehensible." 6 months after the storage room, I was in my penthouse now, when I received a letter from James's lawyers. He had accepted a plea agreement on the criminal charges, agreeing to probation and community service in exchange for full cooperation in returning all hidden assets. Cassandra, the letter mentioned, had been indicted on conspiracy and fraud charges. Her pattern of targeting wealthy married men had finally caught up with her. I filed the letter away without much emotion. They belonged to my past now. I expanded my foundation with my settlement money. The new focus was helping women navigate difficult divorces, especially from wealthy men who tried to hide assets or destroy their wives' reputations. I called it the Marina Chen Foundation for Women's Economic Independence. I used my own story to fundraise. In the first quarter, I raised $50 million. 1 year after that Thursday afternoon in the storage room, I was giving a speech at my foundation's annual gala. 500 people attended. Donors, supporters, women I had helped. A year ago, I told them, I found my husband and my neighbor in a storage room, but that moment didn't define me. My response to it did. I could have confronted them immediately. I could have screamed, cried, begged. Instead, I built a case. I gathered evidence. I planned my next move. Because here's what I learned. When someone betrays you, they're expecting you to react emotionally. They're counting on it. They want you to be unstable, unpredictable, easy to dismiss. But when you stay calm, when you think strategically, when you turn your pain into power, that's when you win. The audience applauded. Among them was Derek Morrison, who had become a friend. He had divorced Cassandra and remarried, a fellow surgeon who valued honesty above all else. You saved me, he told me once. If you hadn't locked that door, I might have wasted years more on a lie. After the gala, I went home to my penthouse. I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights, thinking about how much had changed in a year. James lived in a 2-bedroom apartment now, still luxury but a massive downgrade. His net worth had dropped from $2.3 billion to about $400 million. His reputation in the tech industry was destroyed. His social circle had abandoned him. Cassandra had left him the moment the verdict came down. He had tried to reach out to me a few times. I blocked all contact. Derek had told me that James looked older now, worn down, diminished. I felt nothing when I heard that. Not satisfaction, not pity. Nothing. He was simply no longer relevant to my life. Cassandra had moved to another city trying to rebuild, but her reputation followed her. Storage room mistress, they called her online. Her attempts to target new wealthy men failed because everyone knew her story now. As for me, I was thriving. My foundation was expanding to 5 new cities. I was authoring a book about my experience. And I was dating again, slowly and carefully, but open to the possibility of love. Real love this time, not the illusion James had sold me. I still owned that storage unit in the basement. The building manager once offered to reassign it. I know it has memories, he said delicately. It does, I agreed. But I'm keeping it exactly as it is. Why? I smiled. Because every time I walk past that door, I remember what I'm capable of. I remember that I took the worst moment of my life and turned it into my greatest victory. The padlock I had used to lock them in still hangs on that door. I had it engraved afterward. The moment everything changed. People in the building call it different things now. The trap room, Justice's closet, that storage unit. I just call it a reminder. A reminder that being soft doesn't mean being weak. A reminder that being kind doesn't mean being a victim. A reminder that trust, when broken, doesn't deserve second chances. It deserves strategy. James was right about one thing. I was soft. I was kind. I was trusting. But he was catastrophically wrong about what that meant. He thought my softness made me weak. It made me strategic. He thought my kindness made me a victim. It made me someone worth fighting for. He thought my trust made me naive. It made me someone who recognized when trust was broken and knew exactly what to do about it. She won't fight, he had said. She'll give up eventually. They always do. But I didn't give up. I didn't fight in the way he expected, with tears and accusations and emotional confrontations. I fought with evidence, with strategy, with patience, with the law, and I won everything that mattered. My book, The Storage Room: How I Locked Up My Cheating Husband and Took Back My Life became a bestseller. It inspired thousands of people to take control of their own stories, to fight back against betrayal with intelligence instead of emotion. I get letters now, from women who found the courage to investigate their own suspicions, from people who learned to protect themselves before confronting their partners, from those who discovered that being soft doesn't mean accepting abuse. Sometimes I wonder if James ever thinks about that Thursday afternoon, if he ever replays the moment he heard the padlock click, the moment he realized I had been 3 steps ahead of him the entire time. I hope he does. I hope it haunts him, because some people run from their past. But I locked mine in a storage room and took back my future. And that future is more beautiful than anything I had imagined during my marriage. It's honest. It's mine. It's built on truth instead of lies. The storage room is still there, unchanged. I walk past it sometimes, just to remember, not because I need to cling to anger or pain, but because I never want to forget what I learned in that basement corridor. That justice doesn't always look like courtrooms and judges. Sometimes it looks like a woman with a padlock and a plan. Sometimes it looks like patience and strategy and the cold, clear understanding that you deserve better. Sometimes it looks like being soft enough to trust, smart enough to verify, and strong enough to walk away when both of those things tell you the same truth. James thought he could lock away his affair in my storage room, hidden among our old belongings and forgotten memories. But what he actually did was lock himself into a trap I had set. A trap that freed me from a marriage built on lies. A trap that gave me back my power, my future, my life. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say justice is a door best locked from the outside. And I had the only key.